Hello Crane Nation, Tim here, aka the Crane Man. On today's episode, we've got Jimmy, the crane operator, back by popular demand. We are looking at some of the craziest crane disasters ever caught on camera, and Jimmy's on hand to break them down. We are also heading out on site with Jimmy so he can talk us through his own lifts, step by step, and share his top tips for anyone thinking about getting in the operator's cab. He'll even tell us how he got his first start in the industry. This one's packed with stories, lessons, and jaw-dropping footage. Let's get started. Jimmy, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
We've known each other for quite a while, haven't we?
Yeah, for my sins.
For my sins? I don't know what sins you're talking about. No, I know. Well, I first discovered your YouTube channel and I think we sort of came across each other's stuff. So, mate, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Really.
Yeah. Well, it's nice to be in the same city for once as well.
Absolutely, yeah. I think what it was, I commented on one of your videos.
Some abuse my way, I think, if I remember correctly.
Never. Not me.
Oh, no, it was probably me abusing you.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, probably, yeah. But it's good to make connections. Yeah.
Mate, absolutely. Well, yeah, thanks so much for being on the show. And the reason I wanted to get you on here is you're obviously a very experienced crane operator. We've done a few videos with you before, but I think you've got a really good way of explaining just, a good overview of the industry and how things work ultimately. So I want to start off today by just going right back to your beginnings, where you came from, where you started as a crane operator. I think a lot of the guys that are watching our channel are sort of in their sort of mindset is they're thinking about becoming crane operators or they want to find out a little bit more about it. So how did you become a crane operator, Mr. Jimmy?
Okay, so I started off as a ground worker. I was a ground worker for 15 years. I was driving the diggers, the dumpers, digging holes, that sort of stuff. The money wasn't great. I was struggling financially. It was killing my back. I was thinking, I've got to find a way out.
You sound like one of our adverts. Well, what sort of things did you go through in your training?
In terms of the craneage, it was
a good word, that craneage.
Yeah.
Craneage, yeah.
Yeah. In terms of the craneage, yeah.
It's a technical term, right? But it's a good word.
Well, it is what it is, isn't it? It is craneage, isn't it? So we had a little concrete block that we would pick up and move to certain places, catching the swing, pretty standard stuff.
Did you ever do the tennis balls?
No.
So it's more of an American thing, right? Some of our American training centres, you've got these, they're like little posts with tennis balls on them.
Right.
And you have to move a counterweight through them. So it might be like an L shape or a zigzag shape, right? And so if you knock the tennis ball off, you've messed it up. But you're effectively, bringing your chains and your hook block through the middle of them,
right?
Slewing with a counterweight kind of thing.
No, we didn't do anything like that. But we did do something similar. I've got a funny story about that actually. So
we don't do funny stories here.
It's an old aircraft base. So,
yes, I do know it.
Yeah. So there's lots of hangars. So one crane was right next to a hangar. So there's the hangar, and then there was like a rack full of whatever was in the rack, tall rack, probably about, 2 meters away from the building. So we had to manoeuvre this concrete block towards the building, slew towards it, and then manoeuvre it down the gap and then back out again. And this is what I want to talk about as well. Actually, I was quite good at crane operating. I thought, yeah, I'm all right at this. So
you just knew you had the knack for it.
Yeah. So instead of going over slowly towards the building, I thought I'll try and catch the swinging one right next to it. Didn't work. So I put a hole in the building, put a hole in the hangar with this concrete block. So that was a lesson learned on overconfidence.
Oh my gosh!
But
they still passed you.
Well, that's sort of training. It wasn't the actual test. I was pooping myself thinking, oh my God, and they just laughed and said, look how many holes are there. It happens all the time, So there was that aspect. So we there are tyres dotted around. So we would pick the block up and land it on certain tyres.
Okay, that sounds kind of similar to the tennis ball.
That sort of
maneuver.
stuff. Taking it between two hangers. We'd do end lifts. So picking up column in tight spaces.
Yeah. It's hard. And sort of slewing around as you pick them up so you get the correct
that was with the PEDOP, with the pedestrian operated crane. So we were doing that. Loads of other different things. Yeah, catching the swings, I say, tracking with a crawler. It was interesting. It's just like a foundation level, isn't it?
Taking you back, do you remember your first day as a crane operator?
On site?
On site.
Yes. My first day, yes, there were three operators. I was covering one of, three operators. I was covering one of them. So there were two others that I would just swap between. One of them, so this was interesting because one of them was quite good and pretty thorough, but one of them was a little bit of a cowboy. So it was interesting learning from both, like the bad habits and the good habits.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd stand behind them. The first week, stand behind them, watching what they were doing, and the second week, I'd get them jump in the seat and do a little bit. So it was a little bit sweaty hand time when I jumped in there first time, a little bit nerve wracking, but I had that support network there. The supervisor worked for Langerook, so he was very patient, very understanding. That was green, and you know, when you're up in the crane, you kind of know when someone's not happy, like you know the slingers or supervisor.
Get a bit of a grunt on the radio,
But
don't you?
he's like, no worries, don't worry about that. And then if someone else will come in, it's like, no, you leave him alone, he's fine. You just let him learn, he'll get there, that sort of stuff. Yeah.
I think it's a really good point, right? Because, you know, when you're new on a site, I don't know why the construction industry has this sort of thing where it's like you kind of like to pretend that you're not. You know, people like to be like, oh, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And it's not like that in other industries. Like you don't walk into a finance role and pretend you're the king of the company. You know, you go, oh, look, I'm brand new. Can you show me how to do this?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's because it's like sort of mostly a bunch of blokes together in a sort of male dominated environment. There's a lot of bravado, that kind of thing, you know. But I always say to people, I'm like, look, when you're new, the best thing you can do for yourself is just go and introduce yourself to your lifting team, whether it be your crane supervisor or, you know, depending on what role you're in. Then just say, hey, by the way, I'm brand new to this. I love it. I'm really happy to be here. I'll be the first here and the last to go home every day. If you could just keep an extra eye on me and just, you know, if I don't get something quite right, if you could just explain to me how to do it properly, you won't have to tell me twice, you know, or three times. And I just think, you know, the people that do that, they've just got such an easier time, such an easier transition into the role of becoming a crane operator or a slinger or, you know, whatever you, just in general, you know. I think people don't.
I think people appreciate that. And I think if you do, because I get this all the time, particularly with slingers, for some reason, they always say, I've been doing this 5 years, 5 years, 5 years, and you just
hear 5 years a lot, don't you?
Yeah, you just know that. So you get found out quite easily. So if someone says to me, "I'm quite green, Jim," I'll say, "No problem, mate. I'll help you out. You know, if there's anything, I'll help you out. Be patient. I'll sort of take you under my wing, give you advice and that sort of stuff." That's what you want, isn't it? Really.
100%. It's the only way because, you know, we're going to need crane operators in this country for a very long time. You know, the UK is going to keep building. You know, the population's always expanding. We're going to need more houses, more offices, and you know, so it's something we need to, I think, create that encouraging environment. Do you remember how long it took you to feel confident? You know, and I mean specifically that moment of going like, I know what I'm doing. I got this now.
Yeah, I don't think it wasn't an overnight thing.
No.
I think it took me a good year to feel fully confident. I liken it to driving a car, like passing your driving test in a car. You know, you're probably going to have a couple of accidents to begin with, a couple of prangs, learn from them.
What's the best way to handle that if you do have a little near knock?
Well, report it straight away, obviously, and just take it for what it is. Just accept that you are going. I mean, it's law of averages, isn't it? Throughout your career, you're going to have accidents. I mean, I consider myself a good operator, but still things happen. That you know, and you learn from them. So it's what you can take from that accident. What can you learn from it to prevent that from happening again? Yeah, so about a year to get through, because there's lots of different scenarios that you're going to go through as an operator. Lots of different types of lifts you can do. Lots of different types of cranes that you can operate. They all operate differently. So I think, yeah, a good year. Yeah.
Is there anything in particular, like, you know, if you took your 10 years of experience operating cranes and there was just one sentence, one line of advice you could give someone who's brand new, maybe it's their first day, maybe someone watching this, you know, maybe they're on their way to their first job, they're on the Victoria line going through London this morning. What's just one little bit of wisdom you would give them right now?
I would say slow is fast. You're not paid per lift. You know, so slow is fast. So don't try and be overconfident, operate the crane quickly, because you'll end up spending half an hour trying to catch the swing and that sort of stuff, and it'll make you look silly. So just go steady, take your time with everything, and you'll get there quicker, actually. And also safety is key, really, with everything. You need to have that mantra, just be safe with everything.
Absolutely, mate. No, really, really good advice. One thing I always hear from people, and a lot of the feedback we get on our YouTube channel, is people want to see more of us showing the actual job, what it looks like, what we're actually doing, carrying out lifts, and more of the day to day. So you very helpfully brought along some clips of you doing some lifting from your own YouTube channel, which we are going to talk about later. Now, Jimmy is about to break down some of the most viral crane clips ever caught on camera. And I want to preface this by saying the UK construction industry has some of the highest health and safety standards in the world. Thanks to this, construction incidents, especially crane-related ones, are extremely rare. These clips are important though because they remind us of two things. What can happen when the correct safety protocol isn't followed, and also the incredible power of the machinery that we work with. So make sure you always follow the correct health and safety requirements. Before we actually get onto that, I found some viral clips from around the world, and I want to get your professional opinion on them. I want to see what you think, if you can kind of break down what you think's going through the operator's mind in these things. So if you look over at the screen over here, I'm gonna show you. All right, Jimmy, so this is a video. I think it's from Brooklyn in New York City. It's quite famous. I think it's about 2 years old. What on earth is going on here? Oh.
Yeah, I remember this happening. So obviously the crane's on fire. Don't know the full details of what happened. Obviously there's a report of some sort, or an inquest of some sort, that maybe has not been released, but I do believe that crane was diesel powered. So with diesel powered cranes, you'll have a fuel line that goes up the mast to the crane. And
right, okay, I see. Oh, that's what you were saying earlier, the fuel line. Right.
Yeah. So it gets pumped up to power the crane. So maybe there was a bit of a fuel dumpage. So what's happened is that the heat, you can imagine there's a lot of heat that's come off of that. It's obviously affected the structure. So with the jib, it's tied onto the A-frame using tie bars. So they're quite thin. So that heat might have affected the joints or even the steel. And once they've gone, the jib's gone then.
He probably felt the heat before anything. Hopefully he's climbed down that ladder. It's not something that happens often. That's why I think this video's had so many views. But in particular, actually, what's really scary about it, if you look at the very end of the video, it completely disconnects.
Yeah, so I'm thinking that happened before the emergency services could get there and close off the road.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
It looks like it missed hitting anyone.
Yeah, it obviously hit the building. I think that was a residential building. But I don't know, I don't know if there are any fatalities there.
I haven't heard. No, I mean, gosh, it sort of looks like, by the grace of God, it's kind of not taken too much out of that building. And I don't know if it hit any pedestrians on the way down. Hopefully not.
No.
But the traffic seems relatively unaffected.
Yeah.
And you can see a fire engine's actually just pulling round at the very end of it. So... You know, you never know how long these things are going on for, but no, well, thank you. Interesting to get your professional opinion on that. So, Jimmy, on this next video, right, this one's called How I Get to Work, and it's a British crane operator. I think he's actually in Austria, funnily enough, just looking at the captions here on the video. But he's talking about how he actually climbs in. And it's a question I get asked all the time. Like, how do you actually get into the cabin? Do you have to climb up there every day? And, well, obviously it depends a little bit, right? But, yeah, look at this.
So, if you've ever seen a tall building construction site, you'll see those massive tower cranes go out the outside like this. Look. The ladders inside those tower cranes are not how tower crane drivers get to work, right? They have to be there for an emergency. If something's wrong, they'd come down those ladders all the way to the ground. But the most amount is this. So, you normally get the scaffold hoist, electrical scaffold hoist up the building to a level sort of somewhere near the top, and then this terrifying little bridge takes you out across free air.
What do you think of that ladder?
Yeah.
Try not to rest the ladders.
I wouldn't fancy doing that in the rain or the snow.
No, so I've never experienced that like myself, right? So that is a really tall crane. So that would probably...
It looks like it's a good 200 metres up there.
At least.
It's in the cloud, isn't it?
At least, yeah. So that is likely on a really tall crane. So you won't want to be climbing all the way up there. But
no.
I have known of having to climb all the way up there, not personally. But on really tall cranes like that, yeah, you probably have a lift or some sort of contraption inside the building where you'd go up to a certain level and bridge across. happy days. Every operator wants that. Or you might have on slightly smaller cranes, you might have like a T lift, which is like a 1 or 2 person little lift, like what's on. I think you mentioned it
British
earlier.
T-lift.
The spearling crane,
On the spearings, yeah, the little
spearing crane.
capsule that takes you up.
Yeah, just a small little capsule that just takes you up on the outside of the mast. But to say that the ladders are for emergencies only, it's mostly ladders. You climb a ladder really. If you do this process, you would have to. It's recommended that you climb down to do your checks on the crane. Yeah, because obviously in the mornings I climb up and I check the crane over as I'm on my way up as part of my morning routine.
When you are climbing up doing your daily checks, what kind of things are you looking for?
So any kind of faults, I would start off with the crane base, make sure there's no cracks in the base because you don't want the crane falling over. Then I would look at the anchor points anchored into the base. If there's if you see any water that's sort of sloshing around in the gaps, then it's a little bit wobbly. I'll be checking the ladder rungs, checking the platforms, each section platform, check where each section is bolted onto the next one. There's nuts that have lines marked on each nut. You've got to make sure they've lined up. And then up the top, check the nuts in the slew ring, and then you do your running checks, your pre-start running checks.
Quite a bit to it, isn't there?
Yeah.
How long does it take you to complete your daily checks?
Well, as long as it takes, really. It could take half an hour. It depends on how long the climb is as well.
Yeah, of course. How big the crane is, right?
Yes.
Depends on how many bolts you've got to check.
So it takes me about 15 minutes to get up there. Probably spend another 10 minutes doing your pre-start checks, make sure your emotions are running properly. On your weekly checks, you go up and you do more thorough on the back jib, all your winches, your pipes, and all the rest of it.
Sign them all off, sign off your load of checks.
Yeah.
No, absolutely, man. Well, thank you for breaking that down. Now, this last video I want to show you is actually insane, and it's here in the UK in Reading. You might remember this. Actually, it was a pretty famous video.
Yeah.
You've seen it before?
Yeah.
Right, let me bring this up.
Fire quickly engulfed this building. Crane operator Glenn Edwards wasted no time saving his colleague from the inferno.
I looked out on level A where he was and he was waving his coat. And I said, yeah, there's someone on level A. I said, get your cage on.
Glenn used his winch to move a cage towards the workman to climb into, but the conditions were challenging.
Got a camera on my jib, on the end of my jib. So, and I couldn't see nothing. I couldn't see him. Smoke was swirling around. And Banksman said, he's in. So, then I heard the crowd outside. They were all shouting as well. I could hear all that as well. So, and then up and away. The adrenaline was out the roof.
Yeah.
When I got him back on the ground safe, and I just stood up and I was shaking his head.
Yeah. I just want to pause that for a second. We're only about halfway through the video, but
climb down.
The first thing I actually noticed there is I'm not sure he's actually got a direct line of sight to what's happening, and I think you see a little bit later in the video he's actually just off. It's actually a blind lift technically, right?
Right.
How do you think he's done that?
That's interesting because I thought that was a different building to what he was working on originally. I thought it was a different building, so I thought potentially he could have got in trouble for doing that afterwards because I've known of that before. But it sounds like, because he said it's level 8, it sounds like it's somewhere that he's been to before.
You thought that was actually a different, so that's
different
you've got
site.
A crane on a separate building, and then you've got a different building that's caught fire. Yeah, it sounded like they sort of knew about it.
That's what I thought. But where he said level 8, then that makes me think he's familiar with it, familiar with the plot. So
I hadn't even considered that actually.
Yeah, so for me, if he knows, when you're on site, you've got your mark. When you're doing lifts every day, you know where things are. So you've got your marker points. So if I'm going blind to a certain area, I know the radius. I can line my ropes up with something. So although he couldn't see, he probably was familiar with where to go anyway. If you know what I mean, and the height wise as well. I did read an interview where he said he didn't actually know when the bloke had got in, but he could feel it. He could feel it on the. He could see it on the weight
see
reading.
The extra bit of weight go on.
Yes.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, but saying that, the bloke was in when it was on the ground, so I don't know how accurate that is. But it's an interesting one. Yeah, and I mean the amount of smoke that must have been going towards him at the cab. I mean, you'd automatically just want to climb down to get away from it.
I think actually, I'm just going to keep playing the video. I think he's just off. Let me keep playing it now. So
At its peak, more than 50 firefighters tackled the blaze, and 2 people were taken to hospital for smoke inhalation.
I think that's
This is the
pretty
station
big
house
success if it was only
and
2
the
people.
building behind
You
it
can
on
see the
fire
crane where he
continues with
is,
scorch marks
Yes.
and that's level 8 where he
Yes.
rescued the
This is
guy.
second fire in 5 months on this
Wow.
building site. We don't know what caused this latest blaze, but the local MP has written to the health and safety regulator for them to investigate exactly what happened. Meanwhile, a fundraising page has been set up for Glenn, and more than £6,000
There
has
should
been
be.
donated, with both strangers and family quick to congratulate his heroism.
My little lady's actually here, and yeah, she was very proud of me. She gave me a big hug when I got home. And I texted when I was at work. I've just rescued a man from a building from a fire, but I don't think she realised that what I'd done.
Yeah.
Glenn hasn't yet met the man who he saved, but like all true British heroes, he just hopes his reward comes in the form of a pint together.
All I
Alice Porter,
can say
Sky
is,
News.
I mean, he was 65 at the time. He's probably been operating cranes for
Mm.
30, 40 years. So
Yeah.
his experience, imagine a newbie being up there, you know.
100%. It literally could have been the difference.
Yeah.
That experience there could have
Yeah.
been the difference between
And-
life and
and
death that day.
Instinct kicked in. And I mean, I've done it myself. I've had to rescue someone, and it isn't not to that extent. I mean, that's quite incredible, that isn't it? Really incredible.
Jimmy, now you've actually been in a live rescue situation yourself where you've had to do something similar.
Mhm.
Please, what can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so the day was just a normal day. I was working next to a canty deck. So a canty deck is a platform that sticks out out of the building to land loads in.
It's like a temporary balcony, really.
Yeah,
for
so
lifting materials.
So they take stuff into the building or back out from that. The crane next to me, mate was in the crane next to me, and he had a load in the air, and all of a sudden there was just a little bit of like, he was saying to me, I need to get to that canty deck, Jim. And I was, okay, and then there was a little bit of like, it's like, I don't know what's going on, I can't get hold of anybody. So there was a bit of radio silence, and we thought, gosh. And then suddenly,
And this was your slinger you were speaking to?
no, the other operator on the crash radio.
Right.
And then we could see sort of ambulances pulled in and that sort of stuff. So we sort of said, right, something's happened here. We didn't know what. And then we found out that, so you've got the core of the building, which is like the lift shaft, just a concrete core, which the building wraps around. And going up that, you have riser boxes that are attached to the core. So all your ducting and cables go through there all the way up the building. So a manager of the contractor she stood on the riser box and fell through. So she fell through that one, and then the one below. So she fell down 2 levels, messed herself right up. She was in a real bad way. I've never seen so many emergency services in one place in my life. So basically, I had to lift them onto this platform in a man rider.
Break it down in more detail. So what are you using to lift them? Is it a man rider?
A man
case?
rider, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, so that was a man rider. So they were in that with a stretcher. I had to lift them onto the platform. And then
Who's in the man rider cage?
2 paramedics and a slinger.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Gosh, quite a lot of pressure for the slinger as well, right? Because it's
Well,
one thing banking,
yeah.
a block of bricks, kind of thing.
I did have to have a little bit of a word with him, because prior to that, it was kind of flapping a little bit, like running around and shouting. I just said to him, look, calm down. It's okay. We'll deal with it. It's just another lift, like any other.
Yeah, absolutely, right.
Just another lift.
Yeah.
So sorry, mate. Sorry, it's okay. It's a bit tense situation.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I suppose that is the way to approach it, isn't it? Because albeit, I mean, riding actually in man rider cages isn't that typical, is it? It's normally sort of avoided just because it's seen as higher risk lifting. Obviously, having humans in the end of a cage, on the end of a thread in the sky is normally, people normally try and avoid it. But, it is pretty typical for glass installations and things like that. It's actually pretty typically how they clean glass windows on skyscrapers. I don't know if you've seen, they've got this sort of built-in crane. It's a type of crane, but they're just connected to a man rider.
Building maintenance unit. Yeah.
But so you've got the paramedic in there, you've got the slinger in there. Like, what's happening?
Yeah, so I land them on the canty deck. They go in the building, probably gone about half an hour, and then they pull the lady out, put her in there, and then I've got to think, right, I've got to get her down quite quickly, but obviously safely as well and smoothly, because I don't know what's wrong with her. Don't want any knocks or anything.
Yeah.
Luckily, I was landing out in an open space in the road, so it wasn't anywhere tight where you couldn't bang into things and stuff like that. So I was lucky in that respect. So yeah, it was just about keeping calm and composed, really. Yeah, that was basically it. There was we was off work. Well, we had to go in every day for 8 weeks, but the site was shut down for full investigation. It turned out that the subcontractor had been striking below that the riser boxes because they were propped up with gas leaks, but they'd been striking without a striking permit, and where it was supposed to be bolted into the wall, it wasn't. So it was all a little bit naughty.
Right.
Yeah, but she's okay now. It took her a long time, but she's like, she had a punctured lung and she had to have, plastic surgery on her arm and that sort of stuff. So yeah, that was that. Interesting experience.
Wow, how did you manage to stay so calm? I mean, it sounds a bit like you were sort of the calm head there, you know, keeping the lifting team organised. Where was the crane supervisor in this? Or was he the slinger?
So he was a slinger, and I don't actually know where the proper crane supervisor was. I can't remember. But there was the contracts manager was there. He was involved with it as well. So he was sort of overseeing what was happening. But yeah, I think I kind of I'm calm in a crisis anyway. Obviously, it comes down to I was confident in my abilities as well, being quite experienced. But I've always sort of thrived under pressure anyway with certain scenarios. So my missus always says, you know, it's quite frustrating for her because nothing phases me. Where she's sort of like a live wire, she's like, nothing seems to bother you. You're just so laid back. So I think that helps. Yeah.
Mate, no, absolutely. Well, it sounds like they were really lucky, you know, that they had you there that day.
I mean, I don't want to blame my own trumpet, but one of the operators did say, you know, if there was anyone that it had to be Jim. He said it had to be you. So, you know,
have you had anything like that happen since, or? You know, these pretty rare isolated scenarios.
Nothing like that.
In this next conversation, we start talking about the importance of lift plans, also known as your method statement or RAMs. Lift plans are documents produced by your appointed person, and they set out exactly how a lift is to be completed. They cover everything from the type of crane you'll be using to the slinging method required to lift a load, and they must always be followed. I've actually attached a demonstration lift plan link in the description below, so you can have a look through it for yourself and get comfortable reading one. Just to be clear, this video and the resources in it are for training and educational purposes only. You should never attempt anything you see in our videos without the correct training. Now back to Jimmy.
So the lift plan is a documentation, paperwork that consists of the risk assessment and method statement, shows the method of works and what risks are involved in those works. It will include the schedule of common lifts, which is all the lifts that are commonly done on a day-to-day basis on site. You have all your different types of items that are going to be lifted, how to sling those, the correct methods, what slings to use, what accessories to use.
So that's going to include things like your typical lifts, right? So skips, blocks, probably. Rebar, standard things that you're just lifting 10 times a day, standard things. And obviously you've got your more complex things which might be planned. Now tell me, what is a block cam exactly?
So it's a camera that's attached to the hook block. It gives a downward shot of what's going on, what you're lifting, and it sends a signal to a monitor in the cab so that you can see what's happening. It's really useful for blind lifts.
I've got a picture of it up here on the screen actually. It's the this thing here, isn't it, right?
That's it. Yeah.
It's connected to the battery.
Yeah. It's kind of used for insurance purposes as well, but you know,
it's almost like a dash cam, really, isn't it, for tower cranes?
Yeah. But yeah, really useful piece of kit, really is, yeah.
And you can see here, this is sort of pretty typical view, right, of what you're going to see in that cab. So you can see your slinger, sort of right there at the bottom.
Yep.
How useful is it having a block cam?
Oh, it's a lifesaver. It really is, especially if you've got a slightly inexperienced slinger on a blind lift. You know, they might be giving you the wrong information, and you can see what's happening. You can see if they've got the right slings on. You know, you can line yourself up with wherever you're going easier. Yeah, I think it really is godsend. Yeah,
it's ultimately like having an extra pair of eyes for you. Yeah, especially if you're up sort of 300 meters up there. You know, and just definitely no chance of seeing it. So it's good. Now I also know here in the statement you said it's important not to rely upon a block cam. Why not?
Well, it might not always work. You get signal that goes sometimes. It's important to be able to line your hook up with something without having to look in the camera.
Is it a bit like trying to reverse park your car without the parking sensors?
Well, I suppose so. Yeah. You don't.
You should still be able to park it.
You don't
right?
want to get too reliant on things,
Yeah.
you know. But it's just a really good tool to use. Yeah.
And moving on to your final pieces of sort of wisdom here, you highlight the importance of listening and communication. Now, I think this is one that often gets. It sounds so obvious, so it's often like overlooked a little bit. But I know we were talking about this earlier, off camera. What do you mean by this listening and communication, specifically in lifting operations? Why is it so important?
Well, how much do people really listen? Like properly listen to people? You know, when you're crane operating, most of the work, especially tower cranes, it's all done through radio. So you have to communicate with each other through radio. So you have to really, really, really listen to what the people, especially when safety is involved, and that sort of stuff. And also you get. Construction is a multicultural industry, so you've got all sorts of different dialects, accents,
10 different, nationalities, or 100 probably on big sites even.
So you need to listen to how they're saying things. You know, you've got your standard BS 7121 ways of banking a crane or instructions.
Standards,
What do they actually want? You know, one person's interpretation of something might be different to another person. So you have to listen to each person's individual ways of communicating to know what they mean when they're saying something and what they actually want. So, for instance, someone might say, can you float out? Which means jibbing down on the luffing crane, but keeping the load level, when they actually mean jib down, which will actually lower the load, whereas someone else might actually mean the proper thing. So,
and it's important, right? Because that might be the difference between, putting a load on the ground and sort of
exactly
overloading your crane and actually just keeping it level and floating it out.
Exactly.
I've got a bit of a follow-up question for you, and it might be difficult to answer because it's one of those things. How can you get better at listening, and how can you get better at communication in lifting operations? Like, how can you practice this?
In order to listen, you don't talk, I think.
Yeah, sure.
So in a conversation, some people converse where they're actually waiting for the other person to finish talking before they talk, but some people are actually taking in the information of what the other person's saying. So it's about doing that, taking in the information and not talking over people, and just don't go on your phone while someone's talking to you. Don't be distracted by other things. Don't be talking to your mate while actually fully taking in what they're saying to you, and get feedback. Like, say to them, what did you actually mean, or talk back to them, so you get a two-way thing going on.
I always find once you've worked with an operator for a while, you sort of you build up a bit of trust for each other, and you go like, you either go like, okay, this guy kind of knows what he's doing. This slinger, they understand, they know what they're doing. So even though I'm a little bit uncertain what's going on here, there's a confidence that's carried across from them. But then on the other hand, you always have that person you go like, I'm going to double check the readings on your controls, for example, if that's relevant, or you might have a look on your block cam to see what's going on. In this next topic, we're discussing communication, a really important part of any lifting operation. During a lift, most of the communication is going to be between the slinger signaller and the crane operator. The crane operator operates the crane according to the instructions that the slinger signaller gives them, and that's normally done using either radios or hand signals. Now imagine a big tower crane 200 meters in the sky. It's very difficult for the driver to see what's happening on the ground. It's a slinger's job to use radios or hand signals to give the operator instructions to guide them carefully through the lift. Looking at radios versus hand signals, right? What do you prefer as an operator if you can see the slinger? I know when I started, I used to get, some operators would say you talk too much, and I would always think personally, I'm like, well, the more information I can give you, the better, right? If I'm telling you, maybe you're hoisting down a load, and I'm saying, right, you've got 10 meters till you hit the ground, 9 meters, 8 meters, 5, 4, and sometimes they'd be like, it's all right, mate, I can see on the camera or whatever. Yeah. How does someone strike that right balance of communicating the useful information?
I think it's about doing so. Personally, I think as much information as possible.
I
is
do
good.
too.
So I think you need to be painting the full picture for the operator, especially on blind lifts.
Got blue sky, sun's out, the birds are singing.
Yeah, yeah. Give them as much information as possible, and just do your thing. If you're a slinger, that's your thing. Just do that thing. If that's what works for you, just do that. Tail cranes radio communication is better because obviously you're at a longer distance, so it's difficult to see hand signals. Hand signals are more for mobile or crawler crane operators where you're at that kind of level. I prefer the voice, so I can. Sometimes I can close my eyes. If it's a good slinger, I can close my eyes and I can operate by the feedback they're giving me if they're painting me a full picture.
I think that's actually what I would say. I'd say, imagine you're painting a picture to the operator, or imagine perhaps you're explaining to a blind person what you're looking at, you know. So for example, let's say you're lifting some rebar, right?
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Operator, Mr. Jimmy, you've got 10-meter rebar here. It's a long load. Looks like it's about 2 tons on the end of it. So you're going to describe the weight, the length of it. We've got a lot of people down here, so just be careful. Just come straight up. I've got people on your left. I've got people on the right. I don't want to lift over their heads. So I'm going to hoist you up. Don't start slurring around until I tell you to. You're going to hoist up. You might say come up in 2, 3, 4 through the gears. And when you reach height, I want you to slew 45 degrees to your right. That kind of rich information is quite useful. And I know I think it is anyway. Would you find it helpful?
Absolutely. And it's about what do you know that's going on that the operator might not. So when you're working away and there's noise going on, there's things going on around you, people are talking to you, it might seem obvious to you, but probably not to the person in the crane. So things like, let's say you've landed a load, you've taken the slings off. You say to him, "Okay, up you go, mate." Does the operator know that you're taking the slings off? They might think it's still attached. What gear do they go up in? Do they go up slowly? So it's about conveying that sort of information. Tell them what you know that they might not know.
Jimmy, final piece of wisdom here: safety is everything, right? Now, this is one of those sort of points which I know can sound a bit obvious again, but can never be reiterated enough. What made you want to say that?
Well, 2 reasons, really. Well, 3 reasons. It's a safety critical role we're in, isn't it? People's lives are in our hands as crane operators and slingers. But also for new people getting in, they have to understand that aspect. And also for people who experience, you can become a little bit complacent. Complacency breeds incidents.
How long do you think it takes to become complacent?
I think it's when you've...
It's when you start to get good.
It's when you start to get good and confident in your abilities.
How does that complacency manifest itself?
You might get a bit overconfident with things. You might start cutting corners with things.
Can you give me an example though? So you're sat out there in the cab, standard day, lorries have arrived, bags of sand.
I'll give you a confession.
Okay,
I'll give
appreciate
you a confession.
that.
So 2 confessions. One which I was talking about earlier when I was training. I was getting quite good in the training centre. So we had to do this little manoeuvre where we had to take this block around towards the building and down this little channel. Instead of going around slowly, I thought, I'll catch the swing in one, catch it right there. But it didn't work. So I smashed the block into the building, put a hole in it, overconfidence. Another time we were striking shuttering, which was the formwork for concrete that was poured the day before. So you take the shuttering out. The slinger said, "Take the weight, please." I thought he said, "Take it up, take it away." So I hoisted up, absolutely obliterated the clamps that were holding on to the...
Right.
And, there was a bit of a bounce. So it's that kind of stuff. You just got to be on it all the time, really.
How do you check yourself, or, how can you stop yourself from becoming complacent? Because I think the construction industry, there's signage everywhere. Let's get home safe.
Yeah.
Safety over everything, it's true, but ultimately it does come down to the individual. What are you doing to keep yourself from getting complacent?
You have to remind yourself that you're only as good as your last lift. So anything can happen at any point, and you've got to take responsibility for not only your own actions but other people's actions as well. So you might have inexperienced people working with you. You might have people who don't know the job that well. You might have people who have not good English. So you've got to be on the ball. It's like driving a car. You don't just drive for yourself. You've got to watch for other people as well, haven't you? Watch what they're doing. Watch that cyclist doing. So you just got to be watching everything all the time.
Yeah. What's your normal sort of protocol if you do have to speak up and stop a lift? For example, what's the best way of doing that?
You just tell them through the radio, just say, "We can't do it like that, mate. Can we do it a different way?" Simple as that.
Even if
really.
it makes you unpopular, right?
Yeah, yeah, and it does happen. They do say crane operators, people either love them or hate them. Yeah, so yeah, you have got to be that guy, unfortunately.
No, amazing. Well, thanks so much for sharing that. And again, I think those are just really important points, like regardless of what stage you're in your lifting career, you know, whether you are brand new, thinking about becoming a crane operator, or you're thinking about hanging up your boots, you know, these little nuggets of information are just things that we need to hold dear to us every day. Moving on just to our final section, right? So I asked you to bring in some clips of some lifting you've done yourself. Now, this is actually from your own channel, Construction Cogs, right? Which I fully recommend everyone checks out. What is your channel, Jimmy? Tell us about your channel quickly.
Yes, at CC Crane Life, it's just me showing myself operating the cranes. I might ramble on a little bit sometimes, but I'll show you what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, why I'm doing it, each lift that I'm doing. So showing my life basically up the crane.
Yeah, it's a great channel as well, and I fully recommend it to anyone watching at home. It's more technical, right? So it's a bit more advanced. I think it's actually showing the specific lifts, how to do them, showing how to fix certain situations. I know you've got a great video on how to like get swing out of your line, for example. So really good stuff if you're a little bit more advanced. So definitely check that out. And we've got some clips from it here. So Jimmy, if I can get you to look at the screen again. Yeah. Right, we've got one of the first clips here now. I think you filmed this yourself. When was this job?
This was probably 3 years ago, I think, in Stratford.
Okay. Oh, Stratford.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. So Jimmy's operating the crane here. You've got your slinger down on the ground. Let's play this video. You're bringing it up here.
Yeah.
So what kind of things is your slinger saying to you on the radio at the moment?
Probably telling me hoisting up, slew left a little bit. Nice and easy. He'll be telling me when it is about to stand.
Nice. Obviously, you've got quite a good view of this here, right? So this is almost the absolute opposite of a blind lift, and you can see exactly what's going on.
So I'm about to take that to my right and install that in that facade, that elevation that you can see in front.
You can see it's just going in there, right?
Yeah.
So this is how the glass gets into your buildings, folks.
So if you can see the flag in the distance, there's a little bit of breeze, the Union Jack flag.
Yeah, I can see that.
So we're keeping it low. You've got two taglines on. They're both holding on to it.
Keeping it nice and controlled.
Yeah.
And so what sort of things are you looking for here? What are the particular hazards that, like, you know, we need to be aware of? Obviously it's glass, right? So you definitely can't knock anything. I mean, you shouldn't knock anything ever anyway, but...
Yeah, so first of all, I want to make sure they've got a clear path to walk. Make sure there is a clear path. I don't want them climbing over everything and tripping over things.
Yeah, you can see there's a lot up there, isn't there?
Yeah, and stuff like that. I want to know my route before I get there. I want to know that there's people the other end to receive the load. And take
it's actually going all the way around it. I thought it was going in at the other end, but it's actually going in all the way down here, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is it going up there?
It's going where the people in orange are,
right
next to the
columns.
Oh,
I see. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah, I want to know that there's no obstructions in the way, like columns sticking up that I'm going to crash into, stuff like that.
Well, they're expensive, those panes of glass as well, aren't
they?
And they're incredibly heavy. Do you remember how much that weighed?
No, that one wasn't. That would have been probably half a ton.
Well,
yeah.
So are they just about to hoist it up here?
I think I've stopped it there. Yeah, no, they're going to hoist it up. We're going to put it in. So there's 4 or 5 to the left, and it's going to go in next to those ones. Yeah.
Got you. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was done successfully, I assume.
Yep.
Good. No, very, very good there. Hi guys, me again. You know I can't help myself. I just have to jump in and interrupt. We're about to watch Jimmy's second lift, and it's important to have a bit of background here so you can appreciate the challenges. In this clip, he's lifting an access frame, and it's tricky because he's operating in a really confined space. On top of that, he's also got to watch out for the deflection of the crane, and I'll explain what that means in a minute. Back to you, Jimmy.
So this is part of a waste recycling centre, waste management centre that turns waste into...
It's not all construction, right? Sometimes
it turns it into renewable energy. So it's a walking platform that's going to be taken over the top of a big firewall next to me and installed, and then they'll attach all sorts of big heaters and boilers and that sort of stuff to it.
Sure, let's go ahead and watch. So is this going to be just the standing up of the platform?
Yeah, so literally just standing up. So it's an end lift. So
right.
You can stand it on end. I think this weighed about 53 tonne.
Gosh, okay, so it's,
in total, yeah. So
it's been a big crane you were using.
Yeah, that could lift 70 tonne, that crane, yeah.
Wow, fair play. And so what's important here, right? So depending on I can't obviously see the positioning of the crane. So are you slewing round as you come up? Just
Yeah,
to see
so
your radius and check
so
like what's
I'll be slewing right and jibbing up with it.
slewing
So
right and jibbing up.
yeah,
Slewing right and
so
jibbing up to
decrease
keep your
radius.
yeah.
So this end, what I tend to do before I do an end lift, I'll take the block down to this end to see where it stands, where the standing point is.
Right.
So then I can see on my screen the radius and the degrees, so that I don't have to do too much visual work. I can just look at that screen and take it to that point, and then just hold it there.
Right, yeah, you can see it's now fully stood up there. So, but that actual whole lift took about sort of 5 minutes, right?
Yeah,
It took a little while.
From there to there, it took 5 minutes. And then you've got to think about the jib deflection as well, because that's a heavy load. You can see that it's in a tight area, so that was in the bunker.
All right, so what is jib deflection? When a crane picks up a heavy load, the jib, or the boom, which is this bit right here, will naturally bend under the weight of the load. But as the operator hoists up, the load can swing out slightly due to the tension on the boom. Now, this is something that every operator has to factor in when they're lifting a load. And if you don't allow for jib deflection, the load you're lifting can swing out slightly, which is never good, but is of course particularly dangerous if you're working in a confined space.
That was about 30 metres below ground level. With the jib deflection, that's when the crane, when weight is taken by the crane, it will move the crane outwards, which increases the radius. If you don't account for that and keep it at the centre point, when it picks up, it will swing the load out. So if you can see there, that will be quite dangerous. It'll smash into the wall, 53 tonnes swinging.
Yeah, 53 tonnes is a wrecking
You're
ball,
not
really,
going to hold
isn't it?
on to that, are you?
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely. I was going to say what sort of key hazards are you looking out for here? So obviously you've got the deflection, right?
Deflection.
But like, you've also got a lot of people working in a pretty confined space by the
Yeah.
looks of things as well.
Yeah, so yeah, they need to be kind of out the way, really. As you can see, one of them's right out to the right hand side. There'll be another one the other side, so away from any swinging.
And did you, when you were doing these lifts, right? How confident did you feel? Because I know we started off this conversation talking about the early days and all that.
The thing is, a big lift is the same as a small lift. You just do the same things. You know, you could be, so that glass panel was an end lift. It's the same thing as it's an end lift, but it's really small. So it doesn't matter what you're doing. An end lift is an end lift. You know, you just got to think, well, this could go more wrong if it does go wrong. So take those things into consideration. But every lift is the same. Every end lift is the same. Yeah.
Do you know, that's a really good point you make, actually, because it's something that people say to us a lot of the time is like, you know, how big are the cranes that we're going to train on? Or they might say, how high am I covered for? Into, like, what sort of height tower crane am I covered for? And I say the same thing. I'm like, well, it's all the same. You know, it's, you know, like I asked you earlier how heavy the glass was, and you said, oh, it's not that heavy, it's half a ton. But of course, half a ton is enough to absolutely flatten you.
Yeah.
You know, so whether it's 50 tons or half a ton, you know, it doesn't really matter, does it? It's all about just having the expertise. You know, little accidents can happen even with, you know, little timber blocks, you know, so it's just, I think it's just so important to have that skill and the expertise down. Do you have any tips for how someone can actually practice, you know, developing crane operator skills in terms of, like, you know, there are lifts like that which aren't particularly complex once you know how to do them.
Yeah.
But if you don't know to keep the radius and to reset that radius, right, like you say, you can move that lift out and you can end up accidentally dragging it along the floor.
Yeah.
If someone hasn't told you that ahead of time and said, hey, by the way, Jimmy, watch out for this. I mean, obviously you would have known it, but if someone hasn't said, Jimmy, by the way, make sure you jib up as you slew round kind of thing, or make sure you jib down as you slew round. Like sometimes your slinger will tell you that if they're good, but they often won't, right? And sometimes you can't even see what's going on.
True.
What do you do in that situation?
That is a tricky one, because it sometimes it is a case of you learn by what happens. So if it does swing out, you think, well, what happened there then? Why did it do that? And it's about understanding kind of physics as well, geometry. You know, looking at angles. You got to look at angles, like, for instance, that. You know, I said I had the marker point at the bottom end. If it was straight outwards, if I know that was 10 meters long, then I know where I start, I've got to be on my screen 10 meters in at the end. So there's that sort of stuff. But because that's at 45-degree angle, a little bit of maths might be involved, so you might have to half that. So you might go back in half of that length. So bit of geometry, bit of physics, and learning from mistakes, because we do all make mistakes. It does happen, unfortunately. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think always just asking yourself, you know, what could go wrong as well. If you have that sort of at the front of your mind,
Yeah,
you know, what could go wrong here, you know, is a good way of sort of preempting that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Great. Well, Jimmy, thank you so much for coming on our show,
Pleasure.
man. I really, really appreciate it. I've kept you here for nearly 2 hours now. So
Been a pleasure.
yeah, well, it's always a pleasure to have you, and you know, you've packed so much knowledge into this couple of hours here. So, mate, thank you so much.
Yeah, nice
and,
one. Nice
again,
one.
Construction Cogs, people can find you there, right?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, got the YouTube channel, got the website, and a podcast as well. If you want to look at the podcast as well, which I'm going to get you on Monday.
Great. Well, Jimmy, thank you very much.
Been a pleasure, mate. I'm glad to have helped.
Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes today's episode. Thank you so much for watching. My name's Tim, aka the Crane Man, and I'm with the Lift Tec Academy. If you have any questions about getting into lifting operations for yourself, maybe you want to find out more about becoming a crane operator, then our phone number will be in the description and our contact details should be on screen now. We're open 7 days a week from 9 AM till 9 PM, and our team are ready to take your call. Have a great day and thanks for watching.